in this day and age, the way that social justice would work is they would allow you to beg. Otherwise, it was against the law. And they would give you a spot at the city gate or on a main road where there'd be a lot of traffic. And it was your only chance of survival. And often in this day and age, people would stop and give money or food, but not because they wanted to help this person out, but because in this day and age, it meant you were more pious or righteous. And so it was more about you than about this beggar. This man, blind from birth, he was part of that system. So he was in the government system of sitting and begging, and that was all his life consisted of. And here Jesus with this crowd walking along the road, and this guy hears what he thinks might be Jesus. Now, heard rumors of Jesus. Jesus had a reputation that preceded himself, and he hears this crowd and figured there's no crowd that big that's going to follow anybody unless it's probably Jesus. Heard it was Jesus, and he takes a chance. In verse 47, it says, when he heard that it was Jesus of Nazareth, he began to shout, "Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me." He starts shouting. If this is Jesus, I'm going to let him know I'm here. And he starts shouting, "Jesus, Son of David." He gives him a title that those listening would have recognized. Well, this guy knows a little bit about the background and the history of Jesus. Son of David was actually, it was symbolic because they knew that the Messiah was going to come from the line of David. And so he's proclaiming that maybe, just maybe, this is the Messiah. And he shouts out. But he literally was at the end of his rope. His life consisted of sitting on a roadside and begging, and that was the best his life would ever be. I mean, he's a grown man. He's not a child. And so who knows how long he's been out there? 30 years? 40 years? Every day sitting in the same place? Every day asking just for some change? And he figures, man, this is terrible. Who wants to live like this? This is death. And so, man, I'm just going to go for it because I'm like, this is no way to live. So maybe Jesus has something better to offer me. It reminds me of one of my favorite Old Testament stories found in 2 Kings. And Old Testament is just fun to read because it's a lot of like fighting and, you know, like killing and crazy stuff. And I like that. I don't know if you guys do, but it's kind of fun. And in 2 Kings, there's a story about God's people, and they're in this city, and it's surrounded by the city walls. And the enemy comes in, and they camp around the city walls. And instead of breaking down the walls and killing the Israelites, they just keep everybody from going in and going out. They're going to starve them to death. And sure enough, it's working. And the city is starving to death. And it's an amazing story, actually, how Jesus and the Lord ends up feeding that city back. You got to read it, 2 Kings chapter 7. But what you need to know is that on the other side of the wall, the enemy was living large. They had all the food they wanted. They were just these big parties, and they were watching God's people starve to death. So they had food, and then the city is starving to death. And then there was 4 guys that are highlighted in the story. They're lepers. That means they have leprosy, which means it's a skin-eating disease. It starts on the outer extremities of your body and eats your fingertips, your nose, your ears, your toes, and it works its way in and eventually kills you. They have this deadly disease, and they're standing in between the enemy and the city where the people are starving, and they have this awesome conversation found in 2 Kings 7, and I'm going to read it, verse 3. You look at the whole thing tonight. It says, now there were 4 men with leprosy at the entrance of the city gate, and they said to each other, "Why stay here until we die? If we say we will go into the city where the famine is, there we will die. And if we say that we're going to stay here, we will die. So let's go over to the camp of the Arameans and surrender. And if they spare us, we will live. If they kill us, we will die." These guys are like maybe their skin's falling off, but they're smart, right? I mean, this is their rationale. We're looking at our city. If we sneak in there, we're going to die because they're starving to death. We have leprosy, so if we just stay here and do nothing, we're going to die. So let's go over to the enemy's camp, and they may kill us, and then we will. That's what happens when someone kills you, you die, right? And so if they kill us, then we will die, but if they don't kill us, then we'll have life and food, and it'll be great. It's like the only option for living was to take this ginormous risk and just put it all on the line. This blind guy thought that. And I was thinking about this because where I grew up, we didn't have, my parents didn't really buy me pets, but we had these bugs they called cockroaches. So we just kind of made them our pets, right? We name them and stuff, and it's pretty cool. A little bit later, when I was in college, I realized that's probably not something you want to play with. So we found this thing. It's called the Roach Motel. Have you ever seen these? It says that roaches check in, but they don't. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. You guys have these, right? And it's this craziest thing. It's this little black plastic thing, and I don't know what it is about this, but somehow roaches think this is like the bomb. They're like, and I was thinking, because what else are you going to do at 3 in the morning when you're not asleep? I was thinking, what if these roaches are just like walking at night and they see this thing, right? And then they're like, we're roaches. At best, we'll live, a couple weeks, right? At worst, we're going to take a mad dash across the kitchen floor, and somebody's going to step on us, and we'll die, right? And so if we stay a roach, we're going to die. If we try to run across the floor, we're going to die. And here's the deal. Now, I know some of my friends have gone in there. They've checked in, but they haven't checked out. There's something in there. I mean, I can imagine it looks really enticing. Like maybe like in their little cockroach mind, it's like a little party in there. Like, like whoa, and they're like, what is going on? Now, there's a chance that I could go in there and die, right? But there's a chance that I could go in there and it is going to be amazing. And that's why my friends haven't come out, because they're in there having a good time. I mean, do you understand? That's kind of what you have to do. If you're a blind guy in this era and your only options are to sit here and then Jesus walks by, you have to just put it all on the line. I mean, you have to just go for it, because if he is really Jesus and Jesus is really God and God really wants to save and heal and bless and wants to be part of my life, then what do I have to lose, really? Some of you guys need to ask yourself that at this service. I mean, you're here and you're like, I'm just going to go after Jesus because what do I have to lose? I mean, really think about it. If you chase after Jesus and you live your life, following the words in this book, at the end of your life, you're going to die. If you decide not to follow Jesus and you're just going to go live your own life, at the end of your life, you're going to die. I mean, you end up with death. So the worst thing that happens, you live a great life, Jesus isn't really real and doesn't really exist, and you die. But what if Jesus is who he says he is? Which I believe you will find immediately he is. And in Isaiah 55, a prophet says, seek the Lord while he can still be found. I mean, don't think that you are promised tomorrow. And really, we're not. I mean, I just recently did a funeral for an 18-year-old kid who 6 months earlier found out he had a cancerous growth in his brain, and in 6 months he was gone. Seek the Lord while he can still be found. And you know that word seek is found in this book 1,763 times in the New Testament alone. 2/3 of those are literally you seeking God, but 1/3 of those are God seeking you. I mean, was it an accident that Jesus was walking on that road that day? Absolutely not. He had that all planned and set it up. So Bartimaeus takes a chance and starts to shout at the top of his lungs, Jesus. In verse 48, this is how the crowd responds. Many rebuked him and told him to be quiet. Here's this blind guy that's just taking a chance. And many rebuked him. Now, the many are the crowd as well as the 12 disciples. It doesn't say that the 12 stopped the crowd. They were just part of the crowd, rebuking this guy. And rebuke is really strong. It's not like, shh. Rebuke is like what happens in the movie theater when somebody's talking on their phone, right? Like, shut up, It's like in this guy's face, like, how dare you try to get Jesus' attention? You're blind. You just beg there and be quiet. How dare you interrupt Jesus' day? He is way too important. He's a rabbi. That's the rebuke that this blind guy got from the crowd, who many have seen Jesus heal and bless and touch and change. This guy takes a chance and he gets shut down. You remember when you were a little kid? Remember you were saying, and just think about this. Like, what if you have a daughter and she's like, she wants to be an astronaut. Daddy, I want to be an astronaut. And you sit her down and you go, look, there's 7 billion people on the planet, and there's only like 7 astronauts. And only one of those is a girl. So listen, probably not going to happen. I mean, it would destroy her, right?